I'm going to say a thing which physics, quantum mechanics, has proven to be true, but people never word it like this. However, if you went back and you talked to ancient cultures, ancient cultures, but also modern day primitive cultures that still exist in the world, they would also tell you this is true. But the way I'm going to phrase it, you might find your initial reaction is to immediately reject the idea because nobody phrases it like this, and when you do phrase it like this, it's kind of jarring. I think people's reaction to this whenever I say it to them is jarring. But after years of like tripping on things and studying esoteric things, mysticisms and what have you, finally I knew this intellectually. Finally it sank down and I started to embody this belief, and I really see it now everywhere. And it's this: there is no physical universe. The physical universe never existed. We're hypnotized or brainwashed into thinking that the universe is physical. It isn't. It never was, and it never could be. Everything actually is spiritual. And I'll take it that even further. Not only does the physical universe not exist, and I'll explain that further later in a second. Not only is that true, but the other thing that's true is individuality doesn't exist, and it never existed. Individuality is a concept that was invented by the Catholic Church a little over 400 years ago, I think. And even though I believe very strongly in the concept of individual rights, and I think the erosion of individual rights right now is terrifying, I also think that the concept of individuality is actually what's more or less destroying the world at the moment. And it's because it's been taken to its absolute utmost degree, and communities all over the world have broken down as people have become atomized, and that gets into Edward Bernays and all that. But it's all downstream of the concept of individuality, which did not exist and still doesn't exist in a lot of the world until fairly recently. And also, as I said, quantum mechanics agrees with this. According to non-locality and non-duality, and what's the other one? Non-locality as applied to time. I forget what the term for that is. There is only one thing, and it exists in an eternal now. That's the actual truth, and the mystics will tell you that, and the quantum mechanic physicists will tell you that. But we don't perceive that. We perceive individuals, and we perceive time, and we perceive a physical universe as duality to the spiritual universe, even to the point of if you manage to be one of the lucky few that has astral projected or had a near-death experience, you perceive pulling out of your body and going to a spirit world. Although there is usually a period of time wherein the spirit world is overlapped with the physical world when you're first getting out of your body before you go on to another plane. So yeah, I actually think that the physical universe never existed, and we're actually in something like, you could call it a simulation, you could call it a hologram, you could call it an insanely complex cartoon. That's another way of thinking of it, like a cartoon that's just got a really small level of granularity to it. But physics tells you it isn't really physical. It never was. It's, vibrating strings or what have you, but it's not physical. So it might take you 10 or 15 years like it did me before you really start to get it, but it's not. We're not physical. We're in like a particular region of the spirit plane where certain rules apply, at least at the moment they apply, which makes you perceive it to be physical, or what we call physical, but it's just a certain neighborhood of all that is, and all that is all spiritual, and it always was, and it always will be. So the physicality is an illusion which is not born of bits of atoms. It's born of a brainwashing that we undergo to enter into this neighborhood of the spirit world, I believe. That's my operating premise at the moment.